Ottawa. We're just getting started, so you're good. Oh my God, it's so happy to see you all. You're here. All right, so if you're not aware already, Ottawa University has multiple campuses. And so we have a campus here in Arizona, obviously, that you're all attending, but then we have a campus in Wisconsin and a campus in Kansas. And so all of us kind of work between the campuses. I'm actually originally from the Kansas campus, and my colleague Courtney is there right now. So that's why she is zooming in. So we get to do a little bit of this back and forth. So just a little bit of background on why we're doing this NSO in this format. But my name is Kim Hankins. I'm the Associate Director of International Programs here at Ottawa. I've communicated with many of you. I recognize the names, so it's nice to finally put some faces to these names. So welcome. We're excited to have you here. We do have a full afternoon of information regarding international status, so F1 visa, CVIS records, all that fun stuff. But then Courtney is going to speak about the program itself. So your courses, your course schedule, attendance, payment, all those details. So we encourage questions. So if you have a question at any time, please interrupt me and we'll just kind of answer questions as we go. Of course, you can meet with me afterwards, but we really do just interrupt me and we can answer questions as we go, because if you have a question, most likely someone else has that as well. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping details. So the entire weekend is essentially going to be in this building. So you will check in tomorrow and Sunday where you did, up front. And then all of your classes will be here in this building. Meals will be in the student union. So if you go out that front door and just go straight down the street, to your right a little bit will be the student union, and that's where your meals will be. So tonight, dinner will be provided. It's not mandatory that you attend, but it's nice to have that provided. And then tomorrow, lunch will be provided. And then on Sunday, a brunch will be provided for you as well. Restrooms are just down this hallway on either side. And then there is a hospitality suite. So water, coffee, snacks. So if you head towards the other side of this building where those doors are, if you take a right, you'll just see that down the hallway. So just know that that's there for you, and please help yourself to that. And also in this building, there's only one set of doors that remain unlocked. And those are the doors that you came in up front by the check-in. So you can go out any door is an exit, but if you are on the other side of this building and you go through those sliding doors, you won't be able to get back in. So just be aware of that when you go outside. But Courtney, let's go ahead and get started. I'll introduce to you your student support services team, and then Carla, I will give you a moment as well. But this is going to be the team that you'll be working with for the next couple of years. So essentially you have two teams you're working with. You have the international programs team, which is the one that I help lead. And then you have your student services team. So your international programs team is essentially this L shape right here. So you've got myself, I am a DSO. And then we have Dr. Mary Lou DeWald. She is the dean of the program, and she is also a professor of business administration. So she teaches within our School of Business. And then we have Miranda Badeau and Kennedy Carter. They are both DSOs as well. So anytime you receive an I-20, you could have my name written on it, or you could have Miranda or Kennedy's name written on it. So just be aware that you've got 3 DSOs that you'll be working with. For student services, we have Jamie Fields. She is our Director of Student Services. And then we have Courtney Lane. She is our Student Services Advisor. We actually have another individual who just joined the Student Services team. Her name is Ivana, and she's going to be your academic advisor. But she literally just joined the team, so we'll be onboarding her this next term, but you'll be seeing her throughout the time as well. All of us are actually headquartered in Kansas. So you'll see us, all of us throughout your time here. We kind of rotate traveling down to Arizona for these EMBA weekends. All right. And then I'd like to introduce Carla Engel with Howell Management Services. You've all worked with her. And so Carla.
So just so happy to see you. It's been a real pleasure to work with you. I'm glad you're here. I'm excited for what you're about to embark upon. It's a fantastic program. I really briefly, where I'm coming from, because it's easy to say that, right? That's a great program. We're so glad you're here. But really briefly, I used to work at another university, and I met the folks from Ottawa, and I met the folks from Howell Management, and I liked them so much. I really wanted to start like selling Ottawa to other students when I was working at another university, because I would just say, that's a better school. They really need to be going here. And as time passed and things worked out, I've been able to work with Ottawa because I really do believe in the people that are here and the program that they offer for international students. It's really exceptional apart from so many other schools. And you'll know that because so many of you have already studied in the US. And you've had great experiences. You've been to wonderful universities, and they are. But I do think you're going to find something really special here with the program, and as well as the people who are part of the program. So as much as I was happy to start to be able to work with Ottawa and be a part of it, I hope that you'll have that same really excellent experience. Just really quickly, stay in touch with me. I know you don't need me anymore. I sound like your mother, right? I know you don't need me, but I know you don't need me anymore, but don't hesitate to stay in touch, especially if you have friends that you think would benefit from the program. We would love to help them. Some of you, how many of you found out about the program because of friends? Okay, so yeah, so they really are having a valuable experience. They really recommended it. They may or may not have told you that if you enrolled, that our company would give them a $500 scholarship. Good, I'm glad they disclosed that. So you do, but now you know that too. So you can kind of spread the good word if you have some folks that you think would benefit. I've had a ton of referrals lately, and I really appreciate it. But we have a referral form, and I'll send you the link if you ever connect me with a friend. Make sure you complete that, because if you don't, we can't give you your scholarship, and that would be really disappointing on all parts, because it means a lot to us that you do it. I think one thing that I always say, and I won't talk any longer.
No, you're good.
But one thing that I may have said to you, but I've said to many students over the years, this is a great program. You're going to have wonderful people like him. You're going to have great professors. But to me, the hidden gem are your classmates. You really are going to be in classes with exceptional people. And I say that to other exceptional people. And I know that because I've read your transcripts. I've seen your letters of recommendation. I don't even understand some of the jobs that you have. Like, oh my gosh, have you ever heard of this? This is so cool. You're really, really neat. It's true though. It really is. You do things that didn't even exist, obviously, when I was in school. So I have a lot of respect and admiration, appreciate that. And I'm excited for you, for what's ahead for you. So stay in touch. I know you're gonna have a great experience. Listen, pay attention, because 85% of the questions we get in 3 weeks, 8 weeks are things that were covered here and that you also have access to, right?
Yeah.
In your student portal. And I know it's a lot of information. So this is really important stuff. It can make a difference for your future.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. And all of us here at Ottawa, we enjoy working with HMS. So if you ever lose Carla's contact information and you need to contact her, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to connect you with her. So just keep that in mind. All right, we are going to get into some information. We're going to start with everything international programs. And then, like I said, Courtney will take over with the academics. So for some of you, this information is going to be a repeat. You've done this once or twice already. So it's going to be a refresher for you. For some of you, this is going to be new information. Again, if you have questions, please let me know. But just a little bit of CETUS basics and kind of what is expected of you as international students. So before you receive your I-20 from Ottawa University, which I believe almost all of you have now already, but in order to receive your I-20, you must complete all of the onboarding requirements. So if you haven't received your I-20 yet and you have a question on why you haven't, let me know, and I can let you know what requirements you still have to complete. If you are coming to Ottawa from a previous US institution where you were doing OPT or STEM OPT, you are going to lose access to your SEVP portal page. So that portal page where you can go in and update CVIS information on your own, that is only for students who are on active STEM OPT. So now that you're starting a new academic program, SEVP is going to take that portal access away from you. So what I recommend that you do is that you go into your portal page, take a screenshot of it, all the information that's there, and keep it for your records. If you apply for anything with USCIS in the future, it's just good to have that information as part of your records. I do believe they give you, I think, 30 days from ending your STEM OPT before they close down that portal page. So within the next week, I just recommend getting that taken care of. If you have any changes in contact information, so if you move addresses, if you have a new email address that is different than what's currently listed in CVIS, or an update in your phone number, you do need to contact international programs within 10 days of making that change. We do have students all the time, they're moving addresses, whether it's a new apartment, a new state, whatever the case is, perfectly fine. Just make sure within 10 days that you notify us so we can update that information in CVIS. Moving on to the next point here, make sure that you keep all I-20s that you receive from Ottawa University. So throughout your time here, you'll receive a few I-20s, whether it's because of an employment update or you're traveling and you need a new I-20. Keep all your I-20s for your records, and any I-20s that you have from previous universities, we recommend that you keep those for your records as well. And lastly, it is your responsibility to understand all of the F1 rules and regulations. We as DSOs are here to help guide you, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to make sure that you're staying in compliance with all of those rules and regulations. So just make sure that you have that understanding. And obviously, if you have questions, you can always reach out to us. Our contact information is international programs, all one word, at ottawa.edu. And we'll be sure to get in touch with you as soon as we can. We don't typically answer emails outside of business hours. So if you email us on the weekend or Friday at 5 o'clock, it'll be the following business day that you hear from us. All right, Courtney. I'd like to, and this is difficult to see, I understand, but I'd like to go through what an I-20 is going to look like for you while you're here at Ottawa. Again, if you're coming from a previous US institution, this is going to look very similar, but there's a few things that I want to point out that are specific to Ottawa. If you're new to the F1 status, I'll kind of explain things a little bit more in depth, but this first section here is just your basic information. So if you're coming from a previous institution, all that information that was listed with them transferred over to us. So what's listed here is what that university originally entered when you first came to the US. If you received an initial I-20 from Ottawa, then we were the ones who entered this information, and we took that information from your application. So that's where all of that came from. This section here is the school information section. You're attending the Surprise campus. Now, if you have a friend that's attending at the Kansas City campus, it's going to say Kansas City. So just be aware of that. The one thing I do want to point out is the school address listed here. So we do get a lot of questions with that. The school address is listed as our Ottawa, Kansas campus. And the reason for that is because that is our main campus. That is where Ottawa University originated. It's where our chancellor is located. It's where our dean of this program is headquartered. So that's why that address is listed. But you are attending the Surprise campus, which is listed here. that really won't give you any issues except if you apply for certain things such as going to the DMV. They always give our students a hard time. So if you are going to the DMV, ask us for a letter. We'll provide you that letter and we'll explain in there why that address is listed. I think Social Security office, I think they always question students with that as well. But if you're ever doing anything official wise and someone questions you with that address, let us know and we can provide a letter, and that always seems to do the trick.
I have a question here.
Yes.
So before going to BM, you contact with after going to BM, they ask them.
I just to save yourself some time, contact us before you go. We can provide you that letter, and then that saves you the possibility of going to the DMV, them telling you, oh, we need confirmation, then emailing us and then having to go back. So I recommend doing that before you go. Great question. Here, the DSO that issued the I-20, again, it could be any of 3 DSOs. So just keep in mind that that may be different from time to time. Courtney, I'm going to be scrolled down a little bit. We do have the program of study section next at the very top. So this has your program start and end dates. If you did not start CPT early with this program, your start date is going to be today. If you started CPT early, your program start date is going to be the date in which you started CPT. So if you're talking amongst yourselves at some point and you notice that your program start dates are different, that's why. However, all of you currently have a program end date of March 31st, 2025. That date will be adjusted when you complete the program. We know you're going to complete the program in early March, but we don't have the exact date yet because the university hasn't given us the calendar for 2025. So we just make it March 31st. But just know it's going to be sometime in the beginning of March 2025 that you'll complete the program. Above that there's a section called Major 1. And that is where it's called a zip code, so CIP. And I always forget what it stands for, curricular instruction program, I can't remember. But this is not supposed to list your academic program. So it's not supposed to say executive MBA IT. It's going to be the category in which your academic program fits under. So SEVP has a bunch of categories in which universities have to determine where their academic programs fall under. And so if you're in the IT concentration, you'll actually have this one listed. It's 1099. If you're healthcare management, you're going to have a different category listed. Same with operational effectiveness. You're going to have a different category listed there as well. So if you're comparing I-20s, just know that that information may look a little different. Financial section, not much to say there. The amount listed there from your application. And then let's scroll down a little bit more, Courtney. Every time we issue an I-20, the DSO always signs, and then make sure you sign this as soon as you get the I-20. Otherwise, it's not considered valid. Right, go to the next page. So the second page of the I-20 is going to show your employment information. If you're coming off of OPT or STEM OPT, it's going to look very similar. The only difference is that it's going to say CPT. And then the rest of the information, we've got the dates listed there, your employer name and city and state in which you're working. It's always approved. So unlike OPT, STEM OPT, in which USCIS approves that, the university approves CPT. So there's no wait time. The only thing is we ask that you submit your CPT documents, and we'll get into this, at least 3 business days prior to starting with any employer. And then full-time or part-time is listed, and we take that information from your CPT documents. The current session dates here, I really don't know why CVIS likes to provide this information because it's just confusing, but it just lists the current term dates in which the I-20 was issued. So all of your I-20s will have the spring 2 term dates. But as soon as this term is over, if we issue an I-20, it's going to show that term's session dates. So just because these dates have passed does not mean your I-20 is invalid. I have some students that come to me and they think we're going to issue them a new I-20 every 8 weeks. We will not do that because it's not necessary. And these dates, just because they passed, does not mean that your I-20 is no longer valid. And then every time we issue an I-20, we always sign a travel section. Just with the nature of this program, we only see our students once every 8 weeks when we're on campus. And so we always sign this travel endorsement section, just so if you do decide to travel outside the country, that's already taken care of. And then the third page is just kind of information that SAVP provides to students. I recommend just reading this at some point. I mean, I get it, it's dry information, but it's a good refresher, and especially if you're new to F1 status, it's really good information to be aware of so you can make sure that you stay in compliance with being an international student. So any questions on what your I-20s look like? Yes. Yes, yes. So when a student submits their CPT documents, so that's the CPT employer form, their job offer letter and job description, we the DSOs, go into your CVIS record and we enter that employment information.
So say, if a student does not have any CPT at this moment, maybe they start 30 days. or
Sure.
Having within 60 days, then will you?
Yes, yes. So if you're starting the program and you currently do not have CPT employment, once you do get that CPT employment, we'll enter that in CVIS, and then we will provide you with an updated I-20. Good question.
For my CPT, the end date says 9/30/2024.
We will go over that here momentarily. Great question, but I'll talk about that when we get to CPT. Yes.
Do we need to notify? Say something.
Yep, we'll talk about that during CPT as well. You guys have great questions regarding that. So we'll move on now so we can catch those questions here momentarily. There's a couple things I want to talk about before we get into CPT because that will take a little bit longer. But I do want to mention F2 dependents. If you happen to already have F2 dependents on your CVIS record, or if you want to add them, we do have several students in the program where they are in this situation. So if you came to us from a previous US university and you had dependents, your dependents transferred over with you. So just know that. If at any time during the program you want to add a dependent, you certainly can. So a dependent is considered a spouse or a child. You would just contact international programs by email, and you would provide us with this information. So a copy of your dependent's passport, a copy of the marriage certificate if it's for a spouse, or birth certificate if it's for a child. And then each dependent requires an additional $6,000 in proof of funding that you would have to show. So once you submit that information, we go into your CVIS record, we add the dependent, provide you with a new I-20, and then they can go get their F2 visa. Okay, pretty simple process. All right, Courtney, let's go to travel section. I like to spend a little bit of time on this because one of the benefits of being in the EMBA program is the flexibility. So as you know, you only have to be on campus once every 8 weeks for class. So that time in between, you're working, but some students also take time to go on vacation or go visit family or whatever the case is. So we do have a lot of students that travel internationally while they're in the program, especially in December around the holidays. If you do travel internationally, that like I said, perfectly fine, but just know that you still are expected to meet all of your academic requirements while you're traveling. So if you are going somewhere in the middle of the term and there is not going to be strong internet access, that's going to be an issue that you have to find a solution to. You are still expected to submit your work on time. Documents for travel are listed here. I won't spend too much time on this because it's located in the portal that you can access on your own. But of course, you'll need your most recent I-20 from Ottawa with that travel signature, your passport that is at least 6 months from the date of your re-entry into the US, your valid current F1 visa stamp. Now, the question that we do get with this is a lot of students who come into the EMBA program are coming from a different university within the US. So they have a different university listed on their F1 visa stamp, but that stamp is still valid. It hasn't expired. It's okay to travel on that visa stamp, but when you do, you'll want to carry with you your admission letter and I-20s from your previous university, as well as your admission letter and I-20s from Ottawa. So essentially that's going to show a paper trail of your time here in the US. Now, if that F1 visa from your previous university has expired, if the moment you leave the US, you're going to have to go to the consulate and have your visa stamp renewed before you can re-enter. So just keep that in mind. Proof of funding that shows the amount listed on page 1 of your I-20. So essentially the same proof of funding that you submitted with your application, but you want to make sure that it's updated. So if it's a year, if the information is a year old, make sure you get those updated bank statements. And then as a courtesy, we do provide travel letters to students. Travel letters are not required, but students can submit the travel request form, which is located on the My Ottawa portal, and Courtney will run through the portal on where you can access this information. But the travel request form, you just fill it out, tell us where you're going, when you're going, and then we'll write a letter confirming your enrollment with Ottawa and the travel information that you shared with us, and then you can take that with you when you travel. Again, or not again, but there's a bit of an enhanced risk if you have an expired visa stamp. So if you are planning to travel and you have to renew your visa, just think about your current situation. If you are working on your second master's degree, that puts you a little bit at an enhanced risk of a visa denial. Or if you've previously applied for change of status in the US, that may enhance your risk as well for being denied. So just keep those things in mind. Anytime you go for a visa renewal, there's never a guarantee. A lot of our students, they do go for visa renewals and they do just fine. But we have had students in the past where they get denied and then they're kind of in the situation where I'm not done with my program yet. What do I do? And they have to withdraw. So it's up to you to weigh those risks. So any questions on travel? All right, Courtney, let's go to, and then we'll go to CPT. So lastly on this section, I just wanted to point out, so the program end date on your CVIS record, it's really important that you monitor that date. So if you have something that occurs while you're in the program that would result in the extension of your time in the EMBA program, so let's say you're sick and you can't make an EMBA weekend, which Courtney will talk about later on, you will need to contact us and request that your program end date be extended, because if that program end date on your I-20, if that comes and goes, we can't change it. And then you're kind of left in limbo with a CVIS record that is essentially closed out, but you haven't finished your academic program. So if you don't notify us that you need your program end date extended and that date passes, you're kind of in trouble. So just make sure that you monitor that date. And these are just a few examples. If you, I know no one's going to fail their courses, but if you happen to do that and you need to extend your program end date, or if you take emergency leave, which is for that medical condition. Those would be a few examples. All right, Courtney, let's go on to the next section. All right, CPT. So, and if I forget to address those questions, please interrupt me. So CPT is a required component of the EMBA program. But something to remember is that not everyone in the EMBA program is in F1 status. So for them, they don't have CPT. CPT is specific to F1 students, but they still have that required practicum component. So the reason I bring that up is because we have some students in the program where they started, they're in F1 status, and for example, they changed to H1B in the middle of it. Well, sometimes we have those students contact us and say, well, I don't need CPT anymore. I don't need to do this anymore. Well, H4 would be a better example of that. But while they're not authorized for CPT, they are still required to be employed because that is a required component of the program. They're getting credit for that. So regardless of visa status, all students in the EMBA are required to have that employment or practical training that is directly related to your academic program. All right, let's go to that CPT section. So this is the definition of CPT. This comes from the federal government, so it's very dry. My goal is not to put anyone asleep, so we'll see how this goes. But this is how the government defines CPT. It says that an F1 student may be authorized by the DSO to participate in a practical training program. In this case, it's the EMBA. That is an integral part of an established curriculum, meaning it is required. So you are doing CPT because this program requires it. It's defined to be alternative work study or practicum that is offered by sponsoring employers through cooperative agreements with the school. I want to break that piece down a little bit. So when it says offered by sponsoring employers, I get phone calls from some employers that are kind of concerned about CPT because they think that they're sponsoring the student's visa. That's not the case. This is not an H-1B situation. It just means that the employer is providing this practical training experience for the student, but they are not sponsoring your visa. And then the cooperative agreement part right here, that's the CPT employer form. So the CPT employer form is provided by the university, and then the employer signs off on that. So the employer and the university are working together to provide this practical training experience for the student. This goes on to say a request for authorization for CPT must be made to the DSO. A student may begin CPT only after receiving the Form I-20 with DSO endorsement. So you cannot begin working for any employer until you have your I-20 with that CPT authorization. For example, if you start working March 5th, but we don't receive your CPT documents until March 15th, the earliest we can enter that CPT is March 15th, unless we have a heavy workload that day. It could be even later. And so I'll get your question real quick. And so that means you've been working without authorization during that time. We can't backdate CPT dates in CVIS. So do not start working until you have that I-20. Yes.
What happens when student gets laid off from the job?
Yep. Great question, and that's happened before, unfortunately. So we do have some students, they get laid off or they have to leave a company for whatever reason. They actually have 60 days from their official last day with the former employer to obtain new CPT employment. So if your last day with an employer is March 15th, you have until May 15th to get that new employment. And then if you start the program, and so if you're starting the EMBA today and you currently don't have CPT employment in place, you have the first 60 days in the program, so essentially your first term, to find that CPT employment. So 60 days is kind of your window there. Yes.
For some of us who transferring from have like a few days of unemployment, yeah.
So if you had a few days gap, you mean?
Yeah.
That's fine. So this isn't like, OPT where you're accumulating unemployment days within CVIS. It's mainly a university policy. So if you're changing jobs and you have 20 days gap, that's perfectly fine. But if you have more than 60 days gap, that's where we start to get into that university policy.
It's like,
No, it's unrelated to that. Yes.
So say, when do I start talking to an employer for job? Pre-wedding endorsement or just get everything ready and then.
When looking for employment, you'll get all the documentation ready. But that start date, you're gonna want to kind of set that out a few days because you're required to submit your documents to us at least 3 business days prior to your start date. So I'm using the March 15th date. I don't even know what March 15th is. It could be a Sunday for all I know, but so 3 business days. If you're starting March 15th, we need your documents 3 business days prior to March 15th. Yeah, well, Saturday and Sunday aren't business days, so yeah, you got it. So when you're talking to your employer, you'll want to kind of establish that timeline so you have enough time to get the I-20. And just kind of with your question, in addition to that, so if a student is every 2 months changing jobs, that's kind of a red flag for us. So it's okay to change jobs a few times throughout your time in the EMBA program. But if you're doing that every single term, that's going to be a little bit of a red flag for us. And we may question, what are you doing? Are you actually doing what you're saying you're doing? I've never seen that happen, but we always point that out. Could you remind me what your question was?
if there's change in managers or position or the
Yes.
same.
Yes, so we actually have that happen a lot as well. So if any of your information with your employer changes, so if your job title changes, manager changes, your location of where you're working changes, you'll just need to complete a new CPT employer form, which you can access on the My Ottawa portal. Courtney will show that to you. But you'll just put the new information there, even if you're working for the same company, just some of that information has changed, and you'll submit that to us. Now, some of the information on the CPT employer form gets entered into CVIS, and some of it we just have on file for our records. So if your job title changes, that's no update to CVIS, because CVIS doesn't require that we input that. We have to collect it, but we don't have to input that data. But if you, let's say you change work location, we would have to input that into CVIS because they do track that. So yes, you would just submit a new form. Good question. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. All right, so almost all of you have already gone through this process, but I'd just like to go through it again. But in order to work on CPT, you have to first be authorized for it. And it really is a fairly simple process, especially if you've applied for OPT. This is going to seem like a piece of cake. But all you need to do is complete and submit that CPT employer form to international programs. If you submit it to student services, they'll just direct you right to us. And again, that form can be downloaded from the My Ottawa portal. And then also submit copies of your job offer letter and job description. So whenever those CPT documents are submitted, we actually review the job that you're requesting authorization for to make sure that it is in fact directly related to your academic program. If a student submits an application to us to work as a cashier at Macy's, sorry, that's not going to work. So we do review all that information to make sure that it's directly related to your academic program. Keep in mind that the CPT employer form, for some reason lately, a lot of students have been signing that form themselves. but the employer needs to sign that form. So if you remember on page 2, it asks for your supervisor, or it could be HR manager. It asks for their signature. If you sign it yourself, we'll send it back to you and say, you need to get your employer's signature. And then again, CPT start and end dates cannot be backdated in CVIS. This was not the case just a few years ago. We could enter a late CPT entry in CVIS and it was perfectly fine. And then SEVP changed that rule. So we can no longer change dates. Once a date has passed, we cannot mess with that. So we ask students to submit their CPT documents to us no later than 3 business days prior to their start date with their employer or to any changes occurring. So for example, if you change work locations, you need to submit that updated CPT form to us no later than 3 business days prior to that change taking effect. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so I've had students over time, not a whole lot, but I've had a few who've gotten into a little bit of trouble with that because they submitted late documents. So just keep that deadline in mind. Any questions so far? Yes.
Are you allowed to have, say, 2 part-time jobs, or CPT, or 1 full-time, 1 part-time?
Yeah, I think that might be in my next slide. Let's go to, yeah, there we go. I'll get to that in just a moment. So if you refer to your I-20s, for all of you who are already authorized for CPT, it is only authorized currently for 1 year. SEVP only allows us to enter CPT for 1 year at a time. They have a lot of little rules I don't understand, but again, it's the government. So we just kind of have to do what we do, kind of work with what they give us. So a year from now, actually less than a year from now, we will be extending your CPT. Typically 10, 11 months out, that CPT will be extended. If it's 11 months out and you have not received an I-20 with your extended CPT, reach out to international programs and we'll make sure that we review your record and get your CPT extended. At the end of the day, that is something that you have to monitor. So if you see that CPT end date, you kind of forget about it, it comes and goes and you're still working and you don't have that extension, you're considered working without authorization. And we've had students who ask us to call SEVP to change that, to update it, and they will not do that. So just make sure that you monitor that date as well. Already went through this, but on unemployment, you have 60 days to obtain new CPT employment if you leave your current place of employment. And then also to answer your question, so part-time and full-time for CPT is defined a little differently. So USCIS has a definition for part-time and full-time that's a little different than our Department of Labor. But part-time is considered 20 hours or less per week, and full-time is considered 21 plus hours per week. We only authorize students for CPT that is the equivalent of 1 full-time job. So if you have 2 part-time jobs that are both directly related to your course of study, we would authorize that. If you have 1 full-time job and 1 part-time job, we wouldn't, because that goes over the equivalent of 1 full-time job. So 2 part-time, that's okay. 1 full-time, 1 part-time, not okay. We would not approve that. Any questions on that? Yes. Yes, you can. You can work more than 40 hours a week. That's perfectly fine. We're assuming that all employers are following the law in terms of following labor laws. But you can certainly do that. Just keep in mind that we kind of have this, we think of this pyramid. So your academics are on top, then employment, and then everything else. Sounds kind of harsh, but when dealing with F1 status, your academics is what's making everything else fall together. So if your academics, if you fail a program, so if you, let's say, for example, you fail out of the MBA program, your CPT goes away immediately. So always make sure that you're paying attention to that academics piece. What's your question?
Time to request for extension, because I know that
I would recommend at least a month before your CPT end date. Yeah, that just gives us plenty of time more than enough time to fill that request and get the I-20 back to you. And also, I recommend doing those requests outside of these weekends. We have some students that they only email us during these EMBA weekends. I promise you, we're working throughout the entire term. So contact us if you don't need to have it done during this EMBA weekend. Contact us during the term, because that's a lot better for us to provide you with the attention that you need, because these weekends really are reserved for onboarding new students and kind of taking care of emergencies. But the day-to-day stuff, we prefer that you take care of throughout the term. Good question. Yes.
So let's see if we can.
Yes.
So that will be considered as first 1 year.
Yes, so a lot of students do put duration of program, which is perfectly fine for their CPT end date, because they either plan to work for their employer for the duration of the program, or they plan to work for them for at least the foreseeable future. And so if you leave an employer, before that end date, we can adjust that date as long as it hasn't passed. So, and whenever there's duration of program listed on there, we issue that CPT for 1 year at a time. And then when we go to extend it, we extend it for an additional year, because their CPT form shows duration of program. Yep. Yes. It can. Yep, it can. If it is remote, so on the CPT employer form, you would put your home address or wherever you're working remotely. COVID kind of changed that. Yeah, we have quite a few students actually doing that. What other questions do you have? Like questions? Courtney is going to talk a little bit more about this, but sorry, Courtney. But that last bullet point mentioned the executive practicum memos. Those are memos. It's actually a pass or fail course that you're enrolled in each term. So those memos are required of all students, regardless of their visa status. So again, an example is we have some students who change from F1 to a different visa status, and they think, I don't have CPT anymore. I no longer need to do these memos. Well, that's an academic requirement. So just keep in mind, no matter what your status is, you are required to do those executive practicum memos.
Excuse me, could you please repeat that?
Yes, so Courtney is going to talk more about these, but essentially they are memos that you write each week, connecting your employment to what you're learning in the classroom. In your Blackboard, you'll have a course in there that says executive practicum, and that's what that is. Obviously, as I've already mentioned, you cannot work unless you have that I-20 with valid CPT authorization. All right, Courtney, now you can move on. All right, so any questions on CPT? If you do have questions on this throughout your time in the program, please reach out to International. Even if you think it's a silly question, because everyone kind of has their own situations in regards to employment. So anytime you have a question or a doubt, please reach out to us and we'll work you through that. All right. And that actually concludes my portion of the presentation. So I'm going to hand it off to Courtney, and she is going to talk everything EMBA academics. So if you have questions, it's going to be hard for Courtney to hear or see when you have questions. So if you have questions, just interrupt and I'll kind of mediate between us here.
Thanks, Kim. Can you hear me? I put my headphones in because it's pretty loud out in the main area.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yes, let's jump into the actual program structure of the EMBA. Super excited to have you all here. Like Kim said, myself and Ivana are both at our Kansas location today. But we are happy to get you onboarded and happy to have you start the program with us. I am fighting a little bit of congestion, so if you can't hear me, let me know. If my voice sounds weird, sorry, just let me know and I will do the best I can. Also, if I cough, I'm sorry. So just to jump into the EMBA program. So you have essentially 6 terms a year. You're going to take your main course in the first term. So that's going to be just the basic MBA courses. And then your concentration course is going to be in the second term. So that's going to go down to your IT, operational effectiveness, healthcare management, cyber courses. So the terms are spring, or the semesters, excuse me, are spring, summer, and fall. But what you will most commonly hear us refer to it as our terms, which are spring 1 and spring 2, early summer and summer, and fall 1 and fall 2. So you guys are starting with us in the spring 2 term, which is halfway through a semester. So you will start tomorrow with a concentration course. So you will be with people who are doing that same concentration as you. It's really important that you start out the gate earning really good grades. Because this is a master's graduate program, there are only 2 C's allowed during the program. Any course that you get non-satisfactory grades, which are going to be a D or an F, you do have to retake those. And so you really just want to aim for A's and B's the whole way, and then passing your executive practicum. If you do get more than 2 C's, you will also have to retake one of those courses that you earned a C in. So that will extend your time. It will extend your costs for the program. Some of our courses are only offered every 2 years. So it does definitely get tricky. We are here to help you kind of work that out if you do have to have any schedule changes. But the easiest thing to do for you is if you are just able to stay with the schedule as it is laid out. There is no self-enrollment in courses, so we do all of that enrollment for you. At this point, you should be seeing your early summer courses already in your My Ottawa portal, and by, I'm going to say end of the month, you'll see summer in there also. So don't worry about doing any of that. We in the registrar's office handle all of that for you and make sure that you get in the correct term or in the correct course for that term. Eva and I are going to work on sending out your individualized schedules next week to your Ottawa student email account. So that will let you know what course you're taking in what term. It'll let you know the dates of the terms as far as we know them. We do not have 2024 dates yet, so we will let you know those as soon as we get them. But you will learn for the rest of the year what to expect. Sorry, guys. Jumping over to attendance. So attendance is probably one of the most important policies we talk about during this session, the onboarding session. Attendance is absolutely crucial in the EMBA program because it is such an accelerated format. So as you guys know, you are only in class and on campus for 3 days every 8 weeks. So a lot of information is covered during these weekend sessions, and that is where you are getting the bulk of that class experience. Because of that, you absolutely cannot miss an EMBA weekend. We do have an emergency leave policy for medical emergencies, which we'll discuss in just a second. But outside of that, work is not an excuse to miss an EMBA weekend. Travel is not an excuse. There is absolutely no excused absences outside of emergency leave. And I don't say that now to scare you. I'm not trying to jam that down your throat or anything, but it's so important to realize it now. You're going to get the dates for all of the upcoming 2023 weekends. Put those in your calendar, ask off work for them now. You are expected to be here and you are required to be here. And we are strict with this policy. Because like I said, you're here just a very short amount of time, but we are also making sure that you are following federal policy as well with your F1 status. They require on-campus attendance, and so we are also doing all we can to help make sure you are staying in status there as well. Attendance is recorded each day, so you'll be marked absent or present Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you do miss a Friday session, which is going to end your previous term's class, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, you are not able to submit any assignments, any documentation, so you will get whatever grade you have earned in the class up to that point. Saturday and Sunday, if you miss one of those days, you'll need to work with your professor to see what you are able to catch up on. If you do miss a day, that's where you get an attendance alert, which is what we're going to kind of talk about next. So you can get essentially 2 alerts before that third one results in dismissal. So you get an alert if you have an absence from a single session. So that would be you either miss Friday or Saturday or Sunday, just one of those. The first time you miss one of these, and this is kind of where it has a little bit of a wiggle room built into it. So if you just miss one day, you just receive an attendance alert 1, which is goes on your student record, but all it is a letter sent to you from the International Programs Office, just letting you know that you're not meeting the attendance requirements. That second alert is going to be a letter sent to you and to your employer, letting you and them know you are continuing to not meet the attendance requirements of the program. That third one is what you have to avoid at any cost, because that is going to be an immediate dismissal from the EMBA program. Like Kim spoke about earlier, that does mean that your CPT ends. There's some F1 regulations and timelines with that as well. So you really need to avoid having that third absence. If you miss Saturday and Sunday in a term, that is an automatic dismissal because you've missed 75% of what the class entails for that term. Talked about this a little bit already, but if you'd miss Saturday or Sunday, you just work with your instructor to make sure you can get caught up, see what they will allow you to submit. That is all up to their discretion. On Friday, because it is the last day of the class, so there are finals happening, big group projects are coming together and presentations. No assignments will be accepted if you miss a Friday course. Emergency leave is kind of the one exception to this. So all EMBA students are eligible for 1 emergency leave during their time with us, and that allows them to miss 1 weekend session. It has to be for a medical emergency, and it has to be something that takes you where you can't travel to the session for that weekend. A big example we see often is pregnancy. If you yourself are pregnant, your significant other or spouse is pregnant, that is when this policy would come into place. Also, any medical emergencies, if you are sick, if you're unwell, if an immediate family member is unwell, that's also where this can come into play. There's a lot that goes behind this policy, so I don't want to get too into the weeds on that. But if you are needing emergency leave, you will just need to contact EMBA at ottawa.edu, which you guys should have gotten a bunch of emails from already, to let us know that you want to start that process. And then we'll send you everything we need, which is just a doctor's note and a form for you to fill out. And then it will go for approval in front of our committee. And then we'll kind of walk through what that looks like. You have to begin this process before the weekend session. If at all possible. We know emergencies happen, so we can certainly work with you, but we can't guarantee it's going to be approved. So if you miss the weekend session and then it's not approved for some reason, you would be dismissed because you missed those 2 days. Questions on the attendance policy?
Could you please repeat, if somebody is absent on Friday, what was that?
Yes, Courtney, can you explain what it looks like if someone misses a Friday class?
Sure. So that's when you would not be able to submit any of your assignments for that class. So you would earn whatever grade you have going into the Friday session. If it's the first time you've missed a class, you would just receive 1 attendance alert, which would just be a letter to you letting you know that you have 1 alert now. And then you would just need to make sure you're on campus Saturday and Sunday.
And also with the attendance policy, if you're someone who is flying into Arizona, which a lot of our students do, I recommend coming in. I know it's inconvenient, but I recommend coming in Thursday night, because if you come in Friday morning and your flight is delayed at all, it could potentially make you late for class, which could result in an attendance alert, and we don't excuse for even late flights. So just a suggestion when you're planning those travels.
And if you do arrive late, I mean, coming sometime as opposed to not is always better, but it is up to your professor to decide if you are present or absent for that session. If you miss just like the introductions at the beginning, most of the time professors won't count that. But if you miss a lot of what information's being covered, they will decide, and they have the discretion to decide if you miss too much and are therefore not present for that day. So really, anytime class is happening, you need to be in there. We do breaks, we have food breaks as well, and the professors let you have regular breaks throughout it too. So you definitely want to be in class, participating, anytime that it is running. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
All right. So the weekend schedule is obviously different for you guys because it is your first day with us. So you're not finishing a class. Everyone else that's on campus right now are finishing their spring 1 classes. And then tomorrow, all of you will begin your spring 2 classes. So when you all come back to see us on April 28th, this will be the schedule you follow. So you will check in between noon, 12:30. Class starts at 1 and it will go until 9 p.m. and dinner will be provided. Saturday, you will actually be beginning your early summer class. Check in is tomorrow you'll be beginning spring 2 on Saturday. So check in is 7 to 7:30. Class is 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Lunch is provided. And then on Sunday, you still have your spring 2 class, check in 7 to 7:30. Class is only from 8 until 1, and brunch will be provided. Like Kim said, there's also the hospitality suite. So definitely have snacks, coffee, water, all that good stuff for you. And then a meal that is provided as well. It's really important that you keep your ID on you at all times. That just lets us know that you are here and you're supposed to be here. So make sure that is visible on a lanyard. And let's look at kind of what the schedule looks like a little bit more detailed. This always kind of throws people off for the first term. So want to make sure we have a good understanding of it. So you guys had your payment due by Wednesday, March 1st. All of you guys made that, which is awesome. March 3rd is where we're at right now. You guys are in new student orientation. Like I said, tomorrow, March 4th, you will start your spring 2 classes. Those will run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday, you'll be in your spring 2 class from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then Friday, April 28th, you will be in class from 1 to 9 p.m. And that's going to be the last day of your spring 2 class. So every weekend, you kind of end the term before, And then Saturday starts a new term and a new class. So if you look at the early summer schedule, your payment for the summer semester will be due Wednesday, April 26th. Friday, April 28th, again, you're going to have your spring 2 class ending from 1 to 9. And then on Saturday, your early summer class is going to start 8 to 6. April 30th on Sunday, class will run from 8 to 1. And then you will come back Friday, June 23rd to end your early summer class. What questions are there with the schedule and how the terms are laid out? And all of this information is on Blackboard, and we'll go over that as well. So if you need to look back, you are more than welcome to. Once you're here for a term or two, it all kind of goes and flows and it makes sense. So definitely just let us know if you have any questions. We do have some hotel accommodations we provide. You certainly do not have to stay at those. They are just the partners we have that are close to campus. It is up to you to make those reservations. They can fill up, so I would recommend making them as soon as you can. All the information for the accommodations are also on Blackboard, so you can kind of look ahead, and we will email it out as well. But you are welcome to, we have a lot of students that stay together and rent Airbnbs, so you're welcome to have whatever means of accommodation that you would like, but we do provide a link for that as well. So looking at executive practicum, so this is what Kim had talked a little bit about with CPT. As she stated, CPT or any employment, depending on what your visa status is a required component of the EMBA program. It's required for your status, and it's also required academically. So what this is doing is it's really what makes our program an executive program. So you're able to take what you are learning in class right now and immediately apply it to what you are doing on the job, which is a really great link. And that's what really helps you kind of grow, helps you get promotions, helps you network, all of that good stuff. So executive practicum is a half credit hour. So every term you will have one main class, which is 3 credit hours. And then you will have an executive practicum class tied to that main class that is half a credit hour. So you'll have 3.5 hours every term or 7 hours every semester. Memos are due on Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you are not in the central time zone, make sure you look at what time that will be for you. And do keep in mind daylight savings is happening on March 12th. So I do believe at that point, Central, and at least where Arizona is, goes to 2 hours behind us. So just make sure you are aware of what that time zone is for you. And they're due on Sundays. Like Kim said, you are in a separate Blackboard class for your executive practicum, and your professor will be in there with you. There are rubrics, there's outlines, templates of what the memo should look like. They're not difficult, I promise. The 1 through 6 and week 8 memos are just 1 page long. Make sure you have a paragraph to answer 3 or 4 questions. Pretty easy because it's stuff that you are doing at your job every day. Your week 7 memo is kind of the one to really pay attention to. It is a reflective summary. So it is going to be about 5 pages long. And you've just put together everything you've learned in class that term and how it has applied, excuse me, to your job for the class period you have been in. Very, very, very important. Your week 7 memo has to have a handwritten signature by either your supervisor or an HR representative with your company. This memo is worth 3 points, where all the other memos are only worth 1. So it is crucial. In the class, you must earn 8 out of 10 points in order to pass the class. So your supervisor, HR person, they cannot do DocuSign, they cannot electronically sign, they cannot copy in a saved signature. It has to be a wet ink handwritten signature. That is a federal requirement, so that is just what we carry on with it to make sure that we are meeting that requirement ourselves, and then to make sure that the students are meeting that as well. I would really recommend you reach out to your supervisor, let them know, hey, this is when my memo is due. How soon do you need me to get it to you so you can review it and sign it and return it to me? Once they have signed it, you can just upload it to Blackboard as a PDF and you will be good to go. Questions on the memos?
Yes, we've got a couple questions.
Yeah,
for you.
sure.
Could you repeat the time portion for Sunday and Saturday, like what time?
Yes, Courtney, could you repeat the deadlines for the memos for during the term and then that last memo?
Sure. So weeks 1 through 7 are due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Week 8, which is going to be your last memo, is actually due on like the Saturday of EMBA weekend, basically. And week 8, you go back to just the 1-page memo. We made that change, I guess it's been about a year and a half now. But it was a really good change because we were having that big memo due on week 8, which was really hard for people to get submitted with travel. So we made that update and it has helped a lot. So you submit that week 7, the big reflective summary, essentially by Sunday, right before week 8 begins at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then weeks 8, just 1-page memo is due Saturday of EMBA weekend, again by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And your professors will also go over all of this information tomorrow, and we will send reminders as well for those specific due dates.
And Courtney, those deadlines are listed in the syllabus as well, correct? Yeah. so
Correct.
once you access your courses in Blackboard, all the syllabi will have those deadlines listed. So, and we had one more question.
So, regarding that. Practice course each term, so it's like.
Yes. So Courtney, could you explain the 0.5 credit hour per term for the practicum course and how that works?
Yeah, so you're just like your main course is 3 credit hours, and you get 3 credit hours to go towards your overall credits for Ottawa. The practicum course just has a separate half credit hour. So that is why there is a grade attached to it. It's a pass fail. So you either get at least 8 points and pass it, or you get 7 points or less and you fail it. If you do fail, you have to retake it, as those credit hours do go to your overall 42 hours that are required to graduate with the EMBA degree. So that's why even if you change statuses and you are not using CPT, you are still doing the executive practicum course because it is an academic requirement with that separate half a credit hour that goes to your overall credits. Any other questions with it? And like I said, don't worry, you will go over this a lot more in detail, looking at the actual rubrics and the templates for it with your professors tomorrow, most likely as well.
Yes.
If, let's say, you basically do those same today processes every day at work, it's likely that the memo won't change week to week.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, It will in a sense because you're going to be in a different course each term. So you're going to be, so I don't know what course you're in tomorrow, but for example, one of your courses is organizational. So you'll take, the concept that you're learning in week 2 of that term, and you'll apply it to your current work environment. So even though you're kind of doing maybe the same things on a regular basis, you're learning in the classroom different things that you can apply to your position. Does that kind of make sense?
Okay, that's for the weekly memo or for the?
So that's for the weekly memo. The final memo is you're taking the overall class and bringing it together in kind of one big final narrative.
And the final is
Yes, week 7. And that's mainly for logistical purposes. So as Courtney mentioned, students are traveling into campus on week 8. And so we found it was a lot of times difficult for them to get that employer signature. So the final narrative is week 7, but week 8, you still have a regular memo to submit. And that's due Saturday night. So for current students who are finishing spring 1, their memos are due tomorrow night, 11:59 Central Time. It's kind of confusing, but once you see it like in the syllabus, and it's kind of listed out, it's going to make much more sense. And this executive practicum course, it's the same every term. So you'll get used to it.
You do want to make sure that you aren't submitting just old memos, basically. That is self-plagiarism, and that is something that you will be penalized for. So you do want to spend some time on this every week. It won't take you too long, but you do want to spend time thinking about how, excuse me, how what you have learned that week has been applied to work or was applied to work previously. But you want to make sure you are putting down new information and new thoughts each week. Anything else with the memos?
Yep, we have one more question.
Okay.
For
every week.
Yes, every week you'll have a short memo that you'll submit, but week 7 will be the big memo that has the employer's signature. And if, let's say, for instance, you're starting the program today without employment and you don't get employment until the end of the term, you'll be excused from having a supervisor signature. And you'll write the memos by relating back to previous work experience. So if you are one of those individuals that have a gap in employment for an extended period of time, you'll just relate back to relevant work experience.
Wait, so every week that it's doing is signature except the last week.
No, week 7 is the only week you'll have a signature.
Oh,
Yep, yeah, not every week.
And again, that signature can be either your direct supervisor you're working with or an HR representative for the company. So you do have a little bit of options there.
So say by weeks. Still writing on their relevant work experience.
Yes.
So then from that, they will get the signature from the warden.
No, you will be excused from having a signature because we keep track of everyone's employment. And so we have a list of those who are currently unemployed. And so during week 7, we go through that list and we share with the faculty members who will be excused from having that signature. Yes.
how many words are these memos?
So Professor will go over that. It's you'll get a rubric and it's in the syllabus as well. Good question though. They're not very long.
Or it will vary from course to course, or it's usually
The syllabus won't change. So for the executive practicum courses, the rubric, it's going to be the same every term. The only difference is that your content's going to be different because you'll be in a different course. Good questions. All right, Courtney.
All right. Okay. Payment. So the other really big policy that we wanted to cover is the payment policy. So like I said, you all made your payment for just the half semester because you started in the second term, and that was due by Wednesday, March 1st. Moving forward, payments are always due by 11:59 PM Central Standard Time, the Wednesday prior to the semester starting. So y'all's next payment's gonna be Wednesday, April 26th. And this is gonna be a full payment of $5,190 that is going to cover your early summer term and your summer term. So you will not make another payment again until August 16th for the fall semester. So moving forward, we do operate on a semester-based payment policy. If you are not able to make the payment by Wednesday, April 26th, there will be a $150 late fee added. If payment is not made by Friday, when you are needing to be on campus, you will not be able to be on campus. You will be asked to leave. Payment is absolutely required prior to starting that semester. If you withdraw during the middle of a semester, so if someone were to finish spring 1, but then they needed to withdraw from spring 2, you would be forfeiting the money you paid for that payment. Once you record any attendance in a semester, you are no longer eligible for a refund. So we definitely don't recommend withdrawing in the middle of a semester. We recommend withdrawing after that semester ends. That way you're not out that money. There are some classes that have e-content that is required for the class. So most of it is like our economics, accounting classes, finance classes where you have math problems that you need to do. And so this is just kind of letting you know when to expect those payments. To those additional costs to pop up. They are your responsibility, so they are not tied into tuition because they are a separate license that the professor is utilizing. And again, most of you, none of you will be in any of these classes for spring 2. But if you want to start looking once you get your schedule from us next week, all of this information is also in Blackboard. So you can kind of line up when these dues may be, when these payments may be due for you for that e-content. You will get tons of reminders for payment, I promise. We send out a whole bunch of them quite a ways out just to get you ready for it. And so we will remind you, you'll see that, but it is absolutely crucial that you make those payments on time in order to maintain your status and maintain your ability to stay in the program. Questions on payments?
Yes, we've got a question, Courtney. Oh, yeah, you don't have to ask. Always go. All right, yes.
So to the panel,
Yes. Yep. Payment must be made in full. Yes. I believe the deadline in August is August 16th. Is that correct? And
That is correct.
Yep, 11:59 PM Central Time.
And that is 5,001.
Yes. Yep.
And again, that will be for fall 1 and fall 2. So August 16th is the last payment you'll make for the 2023 year.
And you all are technically starting in the middle of the semester, so that's why your payment looked a little different for this term compared to what you'll pay moving forward.
So next payment due will be April
26.
26.
26th, and what will be the next?
So April 26th is the deadline for the summer semester. August 16th is the deadline for the fall semester. And then January, whatever that date is.
It'll be early January. We don't have that one yet.
Yeah, and that'll be for the spring semester, so on and so forth. And if all of you should have received a welcome email from international programs, and the payment schedule is actually listed in that email. So I recommend referring to that when you have a chance as well.
And do you want me to do questions?
So for these two classes, so for VOS 7200, which is value ethics, help me out, Courtney, professional value and ethics.
Yeah, something like that.
7500, which is the economics course. Those two courses have e-content that you have to purchase separately, which is separate from your tuition. And then these courses have that as well. And then you have for VOS 7700, you have a MyLab fee. So some of these courses have e-content that require you to purchase outside of your regular tuition payment.
And your professor will let you know if that is something you need to purchase when you begin the class. They will direct you through all of that if you need it when you begin that class.
And what was your question?
No, do they have deadline or something?
To make those payments, your professor will share that information with you. Welcome. All right, Courtney.
All right. Let's move into some of the tools and programs that we have available. So some tips for success first. Most important is to monitor that student email. So you all have an Ottawa student email. From this point forward, we legally have to contact you through that Ottawa email. FERPA laws and regulations are something that we as higher ed workers have to abide by, and that states that contacting with personal emails is not something we can do, as that information may not be secure. So you have got to monitor that student email. That's how we communicate the most. That's how you know about deadlines. That's how your professor is going to communicate with you if needed. So I would really recommend putting it on your phone, checking it at least 2 or 3 times a week. Just to make sure that you are up to date with everything that's happening. You know what's expected of you from your professor. And of course, if you have any questions, emailing with myself and Eva, or with Kim and her team for international programs, this is what we ask that you utilize. So just make sure you start making that a habit. Reviewing all course materials. So tomorrow you guys are going to get your syllabi for your main course and for the executive practicum course. So I really recommend every term, just take a couple of minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, just to read really through that. Make sure you have a good understanding of what is going to be required of you in the class, and jot down those deadlines. So jot down, I'm a paper person, so I would write it out. But if you are electronic and you want to put it in your phone, remind you when like the memos are due, or when any other assignments in class are due. You likely won't have a ton of assignments in the intersession weeks. Most of what you're doing will occur on the weekends. However, you may have like a group project that you have to work on during the time when you're not actually on campus, so that you can then present it while you're here on Friday. So just make sure you are aware of what all of those deadlines are. You're checking Blackboard regularly to make sure you stay up to date. Avoiding plagiarism is huge. If you are not familiar with APA formatting for papers, definitely spend some time this weekend going over that, learning that. Net Tutor, which we have access to, is a great resource. Grammarly is another really good resource. You can just Google that. And then your professor is also a great resource. We also have some videos I'm going to show you guys that you can look up and watch on your own time, that will also talk about APA and how to avoid plagiarism. Basically, if it's not your idea and brand new and you're taking it from someone else, just make sure to give them that appropriately cited credit. As this is an executive master's program, it is very important that you produce those scholarly articles, scholarly assignments for your professors. Communication is huge. If something is happening in your life outside of school and it is impacting your ability to focus or to do well in your class, reach out to me, reach out to international programs, reach out to your professor as soon as you can. We can do a whole lot more to help you in weeks 1 through 5 than we can if you wait until the Wednesday of week 8 and you've been behind all class. So you don't have to share everything with us if you're not comfortable by any means, but the sooner we know something is happening, the sooner we can help and the more ability we will have to help. OU Connect is a great system that if you guys haven't already gotten an email about signing up for, you will. This is the best way to make an appointment with myself or with Eva. So if you have a question and an email will not work, you can sign up for a phone call. It's really nice because it connects you directly to our calendars. And so there's no back and forth with emails. You just go in, pick a time that works for you, and that sends me an email to notify me that I need to call you at whatever time you've picked. This also is great to connect you with your professors. So they'll kind of let us know if you're doing well or if you might be struggling and might need some additional help. You can also actually go in there and do what they call raise a flag if you don't know who to reach out to, and that will come to myself and Eva, and then we can direct you to the right department, or we can help you if it's something that we can assist with. Last thing is checking your grades. Just know how you're doing in class. Your final grade should never be a huge surprise to you. Just keep up with it. Have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing and make sure you're just being as successful as you can be. Just a reminder, it is your responsibility to do well in school, to understand those classwork, understand the assignments. No one else can do that for you. But if you're struggling or having issues, that is our job. That is what we're here for. So please reach out as soon as possible so we can connect you with either your professor or other resources, or help you kind of talk through some things. That way you can be successful in the program. Moving on to some tools for success. So kind of the programs, software we have available to help you out while you're here. The first one we're going to talk about is My Ottawa. This should look familiar to you guys because this is where you paid your tuition through Transact. You can also look at your unofficial transcript, your schedule, the bookstore, which you guys won't have to order many, if any, books. Most of that is included with your tuition, and it is just an ebook in your Blackboard course. But your professor will let you know if that is different. Most classes aren't going to be any different than that, though. So it's just a really good kind of centralized place. So let me hop over here, make sure you guys are seeing that. Perfect. So under students, mine looks a little bit different than y'all's just because I have a little bit different permissions, but you should have a student tab where all of this stuff in the left-hand side is going to be very helpful for you. So you can look at academic information. If you hit this little arrow, you can see your class schedule. NetTutor, that software I was discussing that can help with papers, APA, math questions, things like that, is right here you can access. Your unofficial transcript right here. We get a lot of questions about where you can find that, if your employer needs it for reimbursement or if you need to send it off somewhere. All of that is right here. Finance stuff to help you with the Transact, which you'll make those payments the same exact way you made the payment this time. The bookstore link is right here. You can access your student email here. You can also download it on your phone, do an app for it, whatever you want. Blackboard, you can get to easily from right here. And then the library, you can also get to. So if you click on the library, it kind of takes you here, lets you know what their hours are. All over here is everything you can search. So as you guys are in a graduate master's program, you do need to use scholarly articles whenever you do any assignments, papers, anything like that, presentations. You can search the online library databases for those articles. It's completely free. It's all included for all online or all Ottawa students, period, also online students. So this is a great resource for you. You can kind of scroll down, see what all is offered. If you have questions about like, where do I find this, or I'm not really understanding this, you can email the librarians here and they will be quick to answer for you. So lots of really good things coming out of My Ottawa. Let's jump to Blackboard real quick though, because this is where you will spend a lot of your time. So when you log into Blackboard, you're most likely going to come to this activity stream. I always just go directly to courses. And you'll see it listed out for what term it is in. So you guys are all going to be in this orientation to EMBA course with Eva and myself. This is not a credit hour course. It will show up on your transcript though. So it will show up. You do get a pass-fail grade for it. So you want to make sure you do the 2 assignments that are in here, but it doesn't affect your GPA any because it does not have any credit hours tied to it. This is going to be a great place to go though if you have questions about policies or what we said during orientation. Great place for handbook, great place for international student resources. All of that can be found in this orientation course. So let me turn on the student preview so you guys can see it how you will. If it'll go. There we are. So spend some time like the payment and refund policy, attendance policies on here, the weekend schedule. Doing some of the OU Connect stuff is on here, just policies. Here is one of the things that is required in the course, an orientation quiz. So you just need to select this to finish that orientation quiz. And then sexual harassment and violence prevention training. This is required for every Ottawa student. So it just pops up in here. It should not take you more than like 30 minutes to finish these 2 things, and they are not due until the very end of the term. So April 29th at 11:59 p.m., which will be that Saturday of EMBA weekend in early summer, is when they are due. If I were you, I would try to get them knocked out sooner rather than later, so you can just cross it off, not have to do anything else with it, but you can always reference it as well. This down here, the very last thing is your International Student Resources button. Gives you some great information about weekend dates, contact information, frequently asked questions, the policies, the concentrations. This is all what Kim was talking about though for the student forms. So a CPT employer form is right here, travel request form, withdraw form, transfer out form, and emergency leave policy and request form. So if you email one of us and ask for one of these forms, we will most likely just direct you to the Blackboard site. That way you kind of figure out how to navigate it, make sure you find it, and then you have it if you need it any moving forward as well. While you're in Blackboard, you will see a sample course that you have. The due dates are going to look really weird on it. It's probably going to tell you that things are past due. That has 0 effect on you. That sample course is just if you've never used Blackboard Ultra before, and if you kind of want to mess around in that course instead of the courses you're enrolled in. It's just kind of a sample to help you learn and to instruct you on how to use it. That's a question we get all the time though, is I just found this course and things are like 2 months past due. It has nothing to do. It's not on your transcript. It doesn't show up anywhere. It's literally just there to help you kind of figure out Blackboard if you need to. So you, for spring 2, let me go back to my courses so I can show you guys that. So for spring 2 right here, you're going to have kind of like how I have 2 here. You're going to have 2 more boxes under spring 2 because you're going to have the orientation course. You're going to have your main concentration course, and then you're going to have the executive practicum course that is tied to your concentration course. So I would also spend some time this weekend, early next week, just familiarizing yourself with those courses in Blackboard, and just making sure you know how to access all of that. Last really cool thing that's in Blackboard is our OU Communities page. So if you click on the executive program community, go to student preview. Even I try to keep this as updated as we can. We update it probably once a week, once every 2 weeks, just with anything new that pops up. So we have like the attendance policy information's in here still. That same international student information is in here. So if you can't find it in your orientation course, you can also always go to the communities page. Here are some of those videos I was kind of talking about. So how to use APA, writing your paper the right way, which is also APA based. Using the online library. Our librarian was kind enough to do a recording of that for us. No to self-plagiarism. This one, the minimize your efforts, is a really great just kind of introduction to what's expected in the EMBA. This one I really want to draw your attention to, the Get the Memo. This is only, I think, 10 minutes long, and it is a great resource for the executive practicum memos. So if after today and after talking with your professors this weekend, you have questions still about what those memos should look like or any kind of nuances with them, I definitely recommend watching this one. Won't take you hardly any time at all, but it goes through kind of all of the caveats to it so that you can feel very prepared for submitting the memo. So you certainly aren't required to watch any of these, but I do think they are great resources. If you have questions and come to us, especially about APA, we will kind of send you here to watch these as well as some other online resources. We do have a newsletter. So if you wanted to go back through old newsletters, you are welcome to do that. That will have due dates, kind of student spotlights, faculty spotlights, that kind of thing in it. Hotel accommodations are here. So if you click on that, I believe, yep, Arizona is this top one. So you can just click on the links to make your reservations for the rest of the year. The weekend dates are here, so you can see all the 2023 upcoming dates, so you can write those down. Make sure you get those requested off and kind of saved in your calendar. And then that e-content, the cost for that is also here, so you can go back and see what those are as well. Any questions with My Ottawa or with Blackboard?
We have one question,
Yeah.
Courtney. Sorry, what's that?
That the last, like, whatever she discussed, where is this content located?
Yes, so that last screen you had, Courtney, where was that located within Blackboard?
So that's under the executive program community, and at the very bottom, student cost for e-content.
So it's within OU communities.
Yes, it's in the EMBA communities page. And again, to get to that, you just go to this under courses, directly underneath it, it'll say OU communities. I think you guys should only have this top one as an option. And then you just click on that and you can scroll through all of that I just showed. And it is right here.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yeah, you can also go to our YouTube page. All of those hacks that I showed are also on YouTube. Just search EMBA Ottawa University. Any videos we post will also go here. I will probably upload, I'm recording this session, so I'll probably upload it here if you want to go back and watch it. But just a lot of really good information that you can find in here for those hack series are all right here. And just kind of some FYIs, if you will. I talked about OU Connect a little bit already, but just a reminder, in our signatures, you'll see a link where you can go to our calendar through OU Connect to schedule an appointment. That is the best and easiest way to get an appointment scheduled for us. So you can just click on that link, or you can just go through it. Since we are your advisors in OU Connect, you can also just log into OU Connect and it will kind of direct you to our calendars. Last one is a really cool resource we have for mental wellness. Being a student is tough. Being a full-time working student with family and a full-time work job is also tough. So you definitely need to take care of yourself while you are here. Wellness is very important, even if you are feeling good right now and you're not struggling. Just making sure you stay on top of that is just very, very important. So this is kind of a company we partnered with about a year ago now that's been super great to work with. If you want to take a second, you can scan the QR code down here and download the app completely free. And then you have it on your phone ready to use should you need to connect with a counselor. And outside of actually speaking with a licensed therapist, they also just have super helpful like articles, podcasts. They have some like workout routines, some recipes, assessments you can take if you feel like you may be struggling with anxiety or depression, OCD, whatever it may be. Another really cool thing is that it is available in different languages. Sometimes if English is not your first language, it can be hard to really express your feelings in English, something you may not be as comfortable with. So you can request a therapist that speaks your native language, which just makes it a little bit easier to connect. I am a licensed therapist, so this is very important to me. I think it's very crucial that we all take that time to really just help ourselves, keep ourselves as healthy mentally as we can. It is completely free. You will never pay for it. It is also completely confidential. So I will never know you signed up or you used it unless you want to tell me, and you are welcome to do that, but you certainly don't have to. So your professors are never going to find out. We're never going to find out. It is just a great resource that is 100% here to just help you out if you feel like you need a little bit extra mental wellness in your life. I'm going to try this video. Kim, let me know if you can't hear it though.
Sure.
That is something else I should have said. You can chat also. So you don't even have to talk on the phone if you don't want to talk on the phone. You can do chat. Again, it's a licensed counselor, so they have all the credentials and training that they need. But it is really great. There's no necessarily commitment with it. It's not like you have to sign up to do multiple sessions or anything like that. It's just a great resource to kind of keep in your back pocket if you need it. We'll get off my soapbox now about mental health. Very important, very crucial we take care of ourselves. Any questions about the tools or tips or anything that we've just covered?
I'm sorry.
Where do I find this analysis?
How do you find that SSP, Courtney?
Yeah, so let me
Where's
go
that
back
located?
to it. Scan this QR code, like open the camera on your phone and it should pop up the app store to take you to, so you can download it. You'll also get an email from us probably in week 2, so not this next week, but the week after, that also has all of the SSP information in it, and you can scan it. The QR code will be in there too. I'm fairly sure you can also just go to App Store, Google Play, whatever your phone has, and type in my SSP, and it'll take you to the same place. It goes off of your Ottawa student email. So you'll just enter your Ottawa email address, and that's how it knows that you are a student with us. So you won't be charged anything.
Thank you, Courtney.
I have a general question.
Yes.
How do I change my password?
Yeah.
It's just giving how you create it. It's the password lookup thing.
Yep. So if you go to the OU Help tab in My Ottawa, there's instructions on how to change your password.
And that is right up here. So I think you guys won't have all of this stuff, but this should probably be the 3rd one over. You can email them, you can call them 24/7, that's a good point. Like Kim said, we don't work weekends typically. So if you email us Sunday that you can't submit a paper or Blackboard's gone down on you, we can't help with that. 1, we aren't working, we aren't here, but 2, we also don't have the IT knowledge to help with it. So OU Help is definitely your go-to for any technology issues. Blackboard, password, email, they are your best bet for that.
And when you email me on a Saturday at 8 p.m. asking me about submitting or not being able to change your password, that's what I'm going to email to you. I'm going to go email OU Help, but it will make me feel loved and needed.
Well, and that's just it. Once you're a student, if you email any university related questions to Carla, she's going to send you back to us.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a referral question,
So
Carla is your person.
I'm happy. I've got all those emails memorized, but they are there for you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the end of the program. I know y'all are probably like, Courtney, we are just starting. Why are we having this conversation? And that's just because we want to make you aware of what your options are. We will have this conversation many more times in the 2 years you're here with us. But we want you, I know I'm a planner. I plan a lot of stuff years ahead of time just to make sure I have that path to, meet my career goals, meet my personal goals. So we just want to make you aware of what options you will have, excuse me, once you finish the 2 years. So right now, as the program stands, if you do not make any changes, it is a 2-year-long program. After 2 years, once you have those 42 hours successfully completed, you are good to graduate. So you'll get an email from us letting you know that you are eligible to submit your graduation application. You can submit that. We have one ceremony a year for Ottawa, and that's normally late April, early May. So you'll be eligible for the next year's ceremony. You'll get some emails regarding that. But if you feel good with what you've accomplished, you're done with school here, that would be the option you chose. We do have the option to extend your EMBA program though through a second concentration. So since y'all are in Arizona, you're going to have the cybersecurity or the leadership options available to you. By extending your time with us, you are extending how long it's going to take you to earn your EMBA degree because you're adding a second concentration. So your first concentrations are IT, operational effectiveness, healthcare management. That takes your 2 years. If you wanted to add 1 more year or 6 more terms, you can do that in either cybersecurity or leadership. So you will not get your degree until you finish the second concentration, but it does give you just a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more marketability on your resume. We have a lot of people do that leadership if they're wanting to go into a supervisor or a director role. It is a really great program for that. In order to be eligible for second concentration, you must have all A's and B's, no fails or any retakes you had to do. So that is also why we let you know so early. If this is something that sounds appealing to you, definitely keep that in mind as you're going through the program. There are options to appeal. We know stuff happens, so there are options to do that. But the easiest way to make sure you're eligible is to just make sure you're earning successful grades. You'll get an email from Eva and myself from EMBA about 2 terms, a term and a half, excuse me, before you are due to graduate. And that is when you can either select to graduate or to add on the second concentration. A newer program that we have out in Arizona is our Certificate of Advanced Graduate Studies program in cybersecurity. One thing to keep in mind is you cannot do a cybersecurity second concentration and then also do the CAG certificate. If you wanted to do a second concentration, you would need to do leadership, and then you could move into the CAG cybersecurity. That program, it is a separate program from the EMBA, but all policies and rules are the same. It is still F1 CPT day 1 availability. You would work with Carla again, just on a shortened kind of application process. It is 6 terms or 1 year, and you really hone in on cybersecurity for managers. So kind of an overview of cybersecurity. You'll hear a lot more about these as we get closer to time, but again, we just wanted to let you know what options are out there. I'll turn it back over to you, Kim, to do some OPT information.
Yep, and we are getting close to being done, so hang in there. So for those of you who are wanting to do OPT, STEM OPT, this is for you. Many of you, you're probably not eligible for it. The optional practical training is offered once per degree level for F1 students. So you can do it once per bachelor's level, once per master's level, once per doctoral level. So if you've already done OPT on a master's degree, then you're ineligible to do OPT on the EMBA program. So this is not applicable to you. For those of you who are eligible and plan to do OPT, you will need to monitor your hours worked for CPT. So the federal government has a rule in which you can only work 11 months and 29 days, or essentially a year of full-time CPT, and remain eligible for OPT. If you work more than that of full-time CPT, then you become ineligible to do OPT. Now, part-time CPT does not count towards your OPT eligibility. So you could work part-time CPT for the entire 2 years that you're in the EMBA program and still be eligible for OPT. What a lot of our students do, they'll work half of the program doing full-time CPT, and then the second half doing part-time, or vice versa. If you do that, whenever you do make that switch from full-time to part-time or part-time to full-time, that does require that you submit a new CPT employer form indicating that you're switching from one to the other. So just know that even if you're staying with the same company, you still have to notify us that you're switching from part-time to full-time or vice versa, because we have to record that in CVIS. So if that doesn't get recorded in CVIS, and you go to apply for OPT, they're going to deny you if they see you worked more than that 1 year full-time. This does include CPT at previous universities. So if you attended a different master's program at another US university and did CPT with them, if it was full-time, that's going to count towards your OPT eligibility. So if you did 2 months of full-time CPT at a previous university, you've already done 2 months of full-time CPT and you only have 10 months left with us. So I did have a student one time that was denied because of that. So just keep that in mind. It is a responsibility to monitor that. We don't ask students if they have plans to do OPT at the end of this program. So if that is your plan, you're going to need to monitor your full-time and part-time. Make sure you submit the updated forms to us in a timely manner, so on and so forth. So just know that that's something you're going to have to monitor. For STEM OPT, most of our concentrations are STEM eligible. The business data analytics, that's at our Kansas concentration, so that's not applicable to anyone in this room. But cybersecurity, information technology, and then our CAGS program that Courtney just talked about, all of those are STEM eligible. So if you apply for OPT, for example, on the EMBA IT program, you will be eligible to apply for STEM OPT as well. And just a reminder, you must be on post-completion OPT in order to apply for STEM. We have some students who, let's say they have a bachelor's degree that was in a STEM field, but they never did STEM with that. So they want to now use the EMBA program to do that STEM OPT, but they already completed post-completion OPT on a master's degree. You can't do that. It's messy. But if you ever have questions on whether or not you're eligible for OPT, reach out to us because each person kind of has their individual background and we can walk you through that and determine whether or not you would be eligible. But you must be on post-completion OPT in order to apply for STEM OPT. You can apply for OPT up to 90 days prior to your program end date. So once you get to a couple terms out from completing your program, reach out to international programs and we'll provide you with steps on how to apply for OPT and get you going on that process. So again, this isn't applicable to everyone, but for anyone who has plans to do OPT, make sure you're monitoring your full-time versus part-time CPT. And if you have any questions or doubts on whether you're eligible, just please reach out to us so we can help you plan accordingly. Any questions on that? I think we're good, Courtney.
Yes. And then just something I've heard you say before, Kim, if you are saying you're working part-time, you have to be working part-time. That's something that sticks in my mind that you've said time and time again. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
yes. It's my input for the international side over here.
You have to be doing what your paperwork says.
All right, guys, we are done. So we've got our emails up there, emba@ottawa.edu or international programs. Make sure you add that S at ottawa.edu. Any questions, we are happy to help. We work very, very closely with each other. So if you are unsure of who to email, feel free to email both. If you email, sorry, one of us and it needs to go to the other person, we'll copy them and it'll be absolutely fine. But yes, if you have questions, please ask them. We are happy to help you with that. Once you get started tomorrow, you can also start networking and meeting other classmates and they'll be happy to help you as well. I do have the dates up here. So the upcoming payment dates and the upcoming term dates. Again, that's also in Blackboard. But if you want to snap a quick picture of that screen, you are welcome to. Only other thing is don't forget to log in and do that orientation course before we see you again in April. Any last questions?
Yes.
I have a question. So let's say this is the second master's program.
Mhm.
When we are traveling internationally after the visa stamp is expired, are there any steps we can take to like ensure that, you know, we're not denying a visa stamp, or is it just a matter of chance and totally random?
So from previous experience, being able to show that you have ties to your home country, you have plans to go back to your home country. Because when a person is applying for a specific visa status, the consular officer is looking to see that you are looking to do what that visa says. So the F1 visa says you're coming to the US to get your degree, maybe some practical training, and then return to your home country. Whether or not that's actually your plan, I don't care. But being able to show that to the consular officer is what they're going to be looking for. And also, if you're going towards the beginning of your program, I mean, if you go, let's say you have 2 months left in the program for your visa renewal, you may have a likelier chance of being denied just because you're so close, you know. But ties to your home country is the biggest thing that we see. Mhm. All right, well, thank you, Courtney and
Yeah.
Eva. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
guys. Feel free to email us. Welcome to Ottawa. We're happy to have you.
I will just take a second to introduce myself. I wasn't here in the beginning, so I'm really sorry about that. I'm Ivana. I go by Eva. It's just a lot easier to pronounce my name. But like Courtney mentioned a couple of times, you'll be seeing a lot of emails coming from me. So don't be surprised. I am joining the academics advisory crew. So please, if you have any questions that I can help with, don't hesitate to ask. I'm international, just so you know, and you can hear that by my accent. Miss Kim is someone who kept helping me the entire time through my education, and actually soon to be a year ago, I was sitting in watching the same presentation as you were watching right now. So I went through the same what you're going to be going through right now, and I can tell you that you will really enjoy it. So if you need any help and have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask.
Thanks, Eva. We are happy to have her on board.
Me too.
Thank
All
you
right.
both.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Kim. Bye, guys. It's good to see you.
All right, so at this point,